bunch. You chucked it.
This will be actually the first really big official showing of the film, so you guys are the first audience. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here.
It's an amazing theater, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we think about, ghost stories, it's always our past coming back to haunt us. And I thought, what if you looked at that on sort of a national level of the national things that we had done coming back to haunt us? We say, oh, based on a true story, but it's so ludicrous. Whereas in this case, what the true story was based on was itself and so incredibly ludicrous. We wanted to weave in as much of that as possible so that people would say, did that really happen? And then go search for themselves and find out, in fact, it did. And it was a lot closer to reality than they thought.
It goes from kind of documentary style footage to more kind of cinematic footage.
For us, when we were shooting in 3D and the way we were shooting it, it seemed like you'd started off with the idea of you're immersing the audience, that the camera is a character, but you don't want to do a whole found footage thing. You want to just sort of place that feeling and then carry that all the way through. It was trying it in sort of a different way that wasn't about stuff popping out, but rather using it as a way to make you understand where the space is, and when the camera looks around the corner, what are you seeing?
There were quite a few elements in the film that harked back to the kind of counterculture era.
And the real program was, by many historical accounts, the reason we had the counterculture. The counterculture didn't just happen at the same time. LSD and a lot of those experimental hallucinogens came out of this government program to try to mind control people.
And there's a character in the film played by Ted Levine that bears more than a passing resemblance to a certain gonzo journalist.
Yeah, his character has some resemblance to many counterculture. We actually wove several in, and one of them was himself a patient in the program.
The funny thing was when Ted showed up to set the first day, he walked in and we're all like, is he already in character? Very interesting, great guy to work with.
There's some really wonderful locations in the film.
Albuquerque is full of horrible, scary stuff, and we were staying in one of the houses there, and I woke up in the middle of the night. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I felt something very heavy on my arm, and I switched on the light, and there was this poisonous centipede about this long wrapped around my arm. And the first thing I did was I flung it off and began yelling, and it was crawling through my bed. And then I got out my phone and I was like, I gotta film this because no one will ever believe this. There was that, there were rattlesnakes. I stepped in a rattlesnake pit when we were out shooting at night, and tarantulas, just a really intense place to shoot.
God, yeah, high risk.
Very fun.
The Body is about a murderer who uses the cover of Halloween Night to dispose of his latest victim. This guy has got a body that he needs to get rid of. That's the story. So it's from getting the body from A to B. Writer of the screenplay, Paul Fisher, saw him indoors at FrightFest. And he sent me the script, and I loved the concept of the killer that just doesn't give a shit. And I saw a picture of Alfie Allen in a suit, and I was like, hey, he looks psychotic. It was our number one choice, and he really liked the script. You do actually kind of see two different sides to him. You see the professional side and you see the off the clock side, which I thought was really cool, and he's a completely different character. The film raises more questions than it answers them, but that's the intention. Anything that happens after that or before that, hey, that's for you to decide. We actually give a credit to the prosthetic body. He got the nickname of Pat on the set because that's all everybody wanted to do was come up and pat the body. Is it real? No, it's not real.
When I first saw Day of the Dead, where there's that, that sort of terrifying ending where there's just that deluge of the dead, they're all coming in, there's just, everyone's getting cornered. I'd be like, why doesn't he just hide in a cupboard or something? And that very thought just scared the shit out of me, because I was like, oh, now he's going to be trapped in a cupboard surrounded by the dead, and that's even worse. Years later, the idea popped back in my head, and I sort of transported it to a toilet, and then a ladies' toilet, and then Christmas. We actually are one of the only Christmas films that were shot at Christmas time.
What's your favourite scenes that you did?
It's in the trailer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm using a bra to catapult severed fingers. Once you've got your sandbox, you know what you can play with. Okay, I can play with the toilet bowl, the toilet paper.
To flip the script, we developed it a bit with another couple of producers. They kept trying to say, can we take it out of the restroom? How can we cut to other places? Can we cut to outside the restroom?
We had a producer say, oh, we love the concept. Right, now can we put 20 minutes either side? And we're like, that's like saying, I love the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, but can we add, cows? It's like, what?
You think there's any mileage in doing Stalled 2?
There was an
Number
idea.
2.
It's Stalled number 2.
That's the one.
There's an idea floating around which we really like.
Floating around.
It just keeps coming.
Yeah. We're going to do a werewolf film stuck in a matchbox. That's the next one.
Television me a little bit about your characters in Borderlands.
Well, I'll tell you briefly.
You can't remember.
In a nutshell, it's about a team from the Vatican who investigate whether something's a miracle or not.
Basically, a found footage film, and he supplies all the cameras and stuff.
And he plays as far as I can recall anyway, a defrocked monk.
That's not a sexual offence, by the way.
His hair's grown back nicely.
Yeah. Definitely a horror film. It's not a kind of boring treatise on the Catholic religion or anything like that.
Set up in our film is that we're all wearing head cams in order to, justify the found footage, if you know what I mean. An awful lot of the time in found footage films, they seem to be running away from something, but yet they're filming everything. So they're filming other people's faces as they're running away. And so we were able to do that.
There were some takes where I was holding the camera and driving a car simultaneously, and then looking and back and looking and back and having to start and stop the camera and so forth.
And one of us was very good at it, and one of us was completely shit at running the camera.
But no. Apart from that, it's just to make sure that you're not acting, if you know what I mean. You gotta be realistic with it, because it's gotta seem like it's the real deal. So that's the biggest challenge, is to not be crap at acting it. Yeah.
We're not trying to do any of that. When the Blair Witch came out, there was this whole marketing campaign of like, oh my God, this is real. We're saying.
Actors didn't die, they're here.
Yeah.
You can see them. They're right there. It was fine. They're okay. They're okay.
There was a really good set script, and I was one of the good boys. The other two they were very naughty and very funny.
And there are funny things going on.
Well, hopefully some funny things going on. I think they might cut most of the comedy out, but
I mean funny in the horror sense, not in the funny sense.
Jen basically said, "No, I'm going to put them together because it'll be safe." And I said, "No, if they were in a classroom, you'd separate them."
Sorry?
I'm afraid to ask you what kind of research you've done for your role.
Oh, hi.
All these gentlemen changed the face of horror. Who knew Hebrew horror would become such a big thing?
How much do we love this movie? And how much do we love you?
How much do we love FrightFest and how much do we love you? I think it's the same.
Ah, good. We did say to you, when you came with Rabies the first time, come back with something fantastic, and you did.
This is our European premiere and all the actors will come.
It's exciting to see such a lovely atmosphere under the roof of darkness and horror here.
You wanted to do sort of something like a Dirty Harry but Korean version, you said.
Yeah. What we wanted to do like a drama about a suspected pedophile, but we want to do another film. We want to do like a Dirty Harry kind of film, and then we want to do another film like a Korean revenge film with an avenging father. So then we said, let's do all three in the same movie, a Dirty Harry kind of movie, when Dirty Harry wanders by mistake to a Korean revenge film written by the Brothers Grimm.
We wanted to make a revenge film against our parents, because when we were kids, all they filled our heads with are fairy tales about, wolves and witches, which are practically all pedophiles. And then they expect us to grow up to be normal.
How have these guys changed the Israeli film industry? People in Israel woke up. We discovered that there is also violence in the world. There's also darkness. Not everything as you see on the street.
In thrillers or in horror, nobody gives you a wink in the eye, so it's okay to be afraid, but it's also could be funny. And I think that the great directors of the 70s and 80s and even the 90s used a lot of comedy to, lower your guards and then hammer you with a hammer. In Rabies we started to play along with comedy, but in here it was important for us to go even further with the black comedy. The grandfather is like our John Cleese. If you have an equivalent of Monty Python in Israel, he was in it. He was like the John Cleese.
I'm a comedian, generally, really, but here it is not a comic part, no, really. But I think that they wanted me to do it because you can feel maybe the comic atmosphere around the character in a way.
Big Bad Wolves would seem to me to be just like Rabies, the fact that there'd be a remake, an American remake.
They wanted to do it, but the funny thing that when you come to a studio with a kind of film like Big Bad Wolves, like the first thing they talk about is, okay, does he have to be a pedophile? And then, he has to be a pedophile.
We always think it's very Israeli oriented, but when you show it abroad, people say, okay, that's universal, that speaks to us. We've heard some people approaching us after the screening said, okay, I found out what it is. everyone, even if you're not Jewish, everyone have a Jewish mother. That's the moral thing. Yeah, that's you, mom.
The film was just opened in Israel.
We are the #1 film at the critics table. For the first time, an Israeli film got to the #1. It's pretty
just
crazy.
Above Jurassic Park 3D. So long, still working.
It's goodbye and thank you time. It's really strange, this, isn't it? I mean, we all sort of get into the groove after about 3 days, and I just never want it to end. It's just like one big happy family, as always. And so all I say is thank you so much to everybody. We do love you all, even the two had a wank in the back. So, R.I.P.D. 3D. What a film to do that. Have no fear, FrightFest ain't going anywhere, as I said yesterday. We will be back here for one of our favourite venues. The empire is being redeveloped. Big Bad Wolves is actually the very last film to play in this auditorium. We're taking a picture, the very final picture of you all in this auditorium. Smile, Tommy's in, and everything else if you're up at the back doing the R.I.P.D. shuffle. Oh, and the man should put his socks back on, for fuck's sake, please. Socks on, please. Anyway, goodbye, see you next year! See you next year!